Sitting on the park bench, eyeing little girls with bad intensity. Hey, Aquila, drying in the cold sun, watching as the pretty Peggy.
The Sega Genesis, or Sega Mega Drive depending on what part of the world you live in, didn't do so hot after its initial release, and struggled to sell enough consoles to compete with the NES and Super NES soon after. To spike up the sales, Sega cut the price for the console down, changed up their marketing strategies, and installed Sonic the Hedgehog as its new bundled game. The plan worked in making Sega competitive, the console wars had begun, and Sonic effectively became Sega's mascot, and to this day he remains a video game icon. Released in 1991, Sonic the Hedgehog was, much like countless other titles, a platformer. But one thing that separated it from the others is the ability to run about 500 fucking miles an hour. The slopes, springs, loops, and huge drops give this game a roller coaster feel, but the tight controls and the fantastic level design prevent it from being nauseating. So the story goes like this. The evil Dr. Robotnik, or Eggman as he's known outside of North America, has kidnapped a bunch of animals from Sonic's home island and converted them into robots to serve him in his mission to collect the 6 Chaos Emeralds to take control of the island. So Sonic heads out to collect the Chaos Emeralds and ultimately stop Robotnik. Your enemies are all robot slaves of Robotnik. Jumping on them will destroy the robot and free the animal that was trapped inside. There are 6 stages called zones with 3 acts or sublevels in each. At the end of the 3rd act of each zone, Robotnik arrives in one of his contraptions attempting to kill you. One hit kills you, but only if you're not carrying any rings. The rings are scattered all over the place. 100 of them will give you an extra life, and as long as you have at least 1 ring, you won't suffer a death blow unless you fall into a pit. But when you do get hit, you lose everything you have. You can grab them all back if you're quick enough to pick them up before they disappear soon after you drop them, but if you have a shitload of rings, you'll have a harder time getting them all back. Now, you'll get recovery time after you get hit, but if you land on spikes, the recovery time doesn't work, so unless you're close enough to ricochet onto land, you're dead when you hit the spikes, regardless of how many rings you have. Along the way, you'll find some of these monitors called item boxes that contain some power-ups. The one with the ring icon awards you with 10 rings. The shield will protect you from taking any damage or loss of rings, but it can only take 1 hit. The stars will grant you temporary invincibility, the Sonic icon gives you an extra life, and the shoes will increase Sonic speed double time, which can be a blessing or a curse depending on how you look at it, as you might not be able to react as well to enemies in front of you. You can also die by not beating out the 10-minute time limit, but that should never be a problem unless you're trying to explore every inch of the level. Which is another thing. Although the stages aren't mazes, they're also not completely linear either. There are a lot of nooks and crannies and multiple routes. Some act as shortcuts, lead you to power-ups, or simply provide you with an alternate path to the end. Whenever you run by one of these lampposts, you'll activate a checkpoint where you'll continue from after you die. However, you could bypass it if you take a different path. There's usually 2 per act, plus 1 right before you battle Robotnik at the end of the 3rd act. Acts 1 and 2 for each zone will end with a sign of Robotnik that Sonic alters slightly at the passing. If you have 50 or more rings, a giant ring will hover above the sign, and once you pass the sign, you have a limited amount of time to jump into the ring and enter the bonus level called the special stage. You'll have to maneuver your way through a constantly spinning maze, which isn't easy to do considering you're in a rolling motion the whole time, and you can only control your direction while jumping. Or if you're lined up against one of the walls, you can roll your way across. You can change the direction the maze is spinning by smacking the reverse buttons that have the R icon, and grab some rings which will award you with a continue if you get 50 of them. The main objective here is to get the Chaos Emeralds, which is trapped behind a wall of gems you have to break through, and avoid the goals that are located in these little nooks throughout the stage, which will send you back to the game without the emerald. Getting all 6 Chaos Emeralds changes the ending and gives you an added objective besides just beating the game straight up. The graphics are fantastic. There's a ton of detail, the backgrounds flow realistically, and the animation is smooth as silk. Plus there's little extras, like when you don't move Sonic at all, he'll stare at you through the screen, tapping his foot in utter impatience. He does not like to stand still. Of course, I can't forget the highly acclaimed soundtrack. The songs are all great, they fit perfectly with the stages, and they touch up on multiple genres, giving the soundtrack plenty of variety. So Green Hill Zone starts us off. After grabbing some rings at the beginning of Act 1, grab a hidden invincibility right here and plow through everything in your way. Slip down here after this yellow spring, it'll lead to more rings and another invincibility. Pop back up here and head right through the loop-de-loops past the bridge and you'll reach the end of the act. In Act 2, there is a way to get over these spikes without landing back up there, but it's not worth it and totally pointless considering you just have to run about 12 more feet to go back to the same location. This is all optional anyway, as it leads to speed shoes, and if you get a head start and roll through the wall here, a few ring boxes. Now you can either head back up the way you came, and with the speed shoes you can jump off the edge here and land on the loop-de-loop for some rings and an extra life, or if you don't want to bother with the speed shoes, you can take this low route, carefully jumping from platform to platform so you don't land on the spikes, and at the end of the road you can spring your way up to the extra life spot. You'll have to slow down here to jump from platform to platform over the spikes and avoid the wasps, but there's an invincibility box right at the beginning in the tree, so that'll make things easier. Run over the collapsible hill, roll through the chute, and you're at the end. There's an invincibility box right at the beginning of the third act in this tree. Get it and spring your way up twice and get the shield. Now you're as protected as you're gonna get, at least once you get some rings. Spring your way up here and stay on this upper portion until you get to the checkpoint. Then take these platforms up here. When you get to the next checkpoint, follow each of the next platforms until you land on the one that drops you right down on the loop-de-loop with the extra life. Then be careful on the spinning pole with spikes on it. Find a gap and walk along with it and jump onto the swinging platform if you can. If you do get on here, take the platforms across and get the invincibility so you can run across the spiked pole and grab a shit ton of extra rings from these boxes. Take the swinging platform over the spikes and Robotnik is ahead. This battle is very simple, fittingly since it's the first. He hangs a red wrecking ball under his ship and swings it back and forth underneath him, trying to knock you out. The two platforms on either side of the screen make it possible to reach him. One way to do it is to hide at the bottom corner and make the jump while the ball is on the opposite side and repeat the process, or you can jump when the ball is on its way towards you, so when you fall back down, the ball would have already passed you and you can make your way to the other platform and get the job done faster. Either way, it's pretty easy and you should have no problem taking them out and freeing the animals. Marble Zone is next. Above ground there are these spiked caterpillars. The only weak spot is their head. You don't want to land on their body. After this hill, slip in here to get some rings, and when you jump on these chunks of land, they'll sink and ignite with fire from the lava pit underneath, so don't stay on too long. Grab the shield, head underground, and you'll have to push the cement block onto the switch to bring the spiked pulley up and head down. Watch the spikes that protrude out the wall here and hit the checkpoint to the left once you get to the bottom. This spiked platform will drop and steadily rise before dropping again, so stand here in the safe spot and climb it once it drops. Then there are these cement blocks that slip in and out of the walls. Stay low after getting on the second one so you don't smack the spikes. Then use the blocks that drops next to the spiked platform as a boost to get up and outside, and the sign is up ahead. When you get underground in Act 2, you'll have to push the cement block into the lava bath and ride it across. Watch out for the lava fall as you head up here to grab the rings and shield, and the rest of the trip across the river is walkable. When you push these blocks into the wall, get ready to run, because as soon as you land, the river of lava starts to flow towards you. Just watch out for the spikes here. Take small steps across the swinging platforms to get across, then you'll have to ride another block across a lava river. Stay still while the bursts come up from the river, you won't go anywhere. Now you could jump up on the third burst to get up here, but first you should go through this illusion wall to get some rings and an extra life. When you go back, you're going to have to ride this block all the way back because no bursts will come until you start back from the beginning. Head left when you come back outside to get the checkpoint and some rings, and then up ahead there's more ring boxes in this area here right before you head back underground. There are two chutes with lava falls. Wait for them both to clear and get against the wall and grab the invincibility. Then you can just run right through the lava bath. There'll be several more spike platform drops, and you can probably bypass a few of them while still invincible and not have to worry about getting squashed, but still keep your head up so you can tell when and where they're coming from, and the signpost up ahead. Next stop, Act 3. Now you have a couple routes you can take for the beginning portion of the stage. If you head in here, you'll have to worry about dropped spikes, collapsible floors, and balls of flame coming out of the walls. You'll have to run and roll to break the floor at the end. Staying with the original path, you'll have to contend with flame balls, a river of lava to get across, and some bats, plus you can get a shield out of the deal, so this might be the better choice. Either way you decide, right after that is a river of lava you'll need to sail across on another block. The bursts will come, and this time you have to jump or you'll get stranded in the lava. Right after this pair of spiked platforms that drop, you can either keep going and battle the flame balls, swinging platforms, lava falls, a river of lava to ride over, or you can just skip all that bullshit and get an extra life in the process by running through this illusion wall, and then after getting the one up, running through the illusion wall on the opposite end. Watch the spikes that protrude out of the wall. Be careful making these jumps across these pits or you'll land back in the lava river. And soon after, you'll battle Robotnik. He'll fly overhead and drop fire, which ignites the entire platform. Then he heads over to the other one and does the same. The fires die out, so you have just enough time to get onto the other platform while he occupies the other one. Jump high to avoid the fireballs that spit out of the river and smash him while he's on his way to your side right before you hop over to the other side. Keep the process up until he's done for. Next up is Springyard Zone, which is much faster paced than Marble. After running down this hill, stop here, jump on the switch, and quickly jump onto the platform as it ascends upward. Head left and be careful of these spiked balls that rotate around this half pipe. Stay on the edge and jump between them when there's room and get the shield and rings. Head back down where you came from, avoid these slowly hovering spiked balls, and watch for this rotating string of small spiked balls to clear before grabbing the rings on your way through. When you come up on the other side, there'll be a hidden area in the wall here you can spring your way through to get some extra rings. Up ahead is a few more of these hovering spiked balls, but there's only one on each and they're faster, so try hard not to fall to the bottom or you're fucked, and the end is not far away. After swinging down this huge fall in Act 2, take the low route, avoid the spiked balls, and when you get to the wall, instead of springing up, slip through this hidden passage and it'll lead to a stream of rings and an extra life. Then spring your way up, get the shield, and head right after you get out of this bumper area. Avoid some more of these spiked balls, and if getting by these fast bastards is a pain in the ass for you, then spring your way up here, walk along these platforms that expand and contract, standing in the center when they close up so you don't fall, and take these moving platforms across and you'll safely make it over the danger zone, with the end of the act just ahead. The third act starts with a long downhill run, and if you land on one of the springs down here at the bottom at the right trajectory and get the timing right for when this platform drops low enough, you'll take it up here for an invincibility, which will make things a bit easier in this initial run. Be careful of these two pairs of spiked balls, take the elevators up, drop down this valley, and if you get enough steam, slip into this hidden area to get an invincibility and some speed shoes. Head through here, continue moving straight, bypassing the red spring, and grab the rings and shield. Spring your way off this bumper, land on the platform, and make your way up here to get an extra life. Then head back to near the spring so you can hit the checkpoint. Carefully walk across these moving platforms as you ride over a pit, and Robotnik is just ahead. He'll fly overhead and unleash a spike, grabbing one of the blocks and destroying it, leaving a pit of death underneath where the block was. He'll always attack once he's right above you, so lure him toward the outer edge block each time to give you the most room possible to maneuver, and smash him whenever he's low enough. You can reach him when he's flying around, but you may influence him to draw his spike out, so you're probably better off just giving him a couple of shots when he's on his way down, and when he's plucking the block away, and he'll be done in no time. Lambert Zone introduces the underwater element into the Sonic series. You'll often find yourself underwater, and after being down there for long enough, a timer will start, along with some dramatic music indicating that you're running out of oxygen. The only way to get out of this jam is to either reach the surface or suck in an air bubble. These bubbles I mentioned will form from a patch of bubbles on the ground. The smaller bubbles won't do shit, you gotta ingest the big ones. I say stop at every one, cause even if you think you'll make it to the next one in time, you may not. So at the beginning of Act 1, before you head down here, grab the shield in this corner. Just make sure you avoid the swinging spiked ball. After opening up this door and sliding through, you'll trigger these platforms to rise once you land on them, the left one being fatal, so slip off as soon as you land and move on. After a few more swinging spiked balls, you'll arrive at this ride of sorts. It'll take you directly into some spikes on the ceiling, so don't let it carry you. Hit the spring to get higher on the right side and keep popping up against the grain to push the switch which opens up the floor below. These tridents will stab out at you, then withdraw. Obviously you want to move past them when they're detracted, but they can still hurt you in this state, so make sure you jump over them, or jump between them as you get to the end. Act 2 starts out with some water slides. Ride them down and grab the invincibility so you can plow through the early portion of the stage. Just keep in mind that you might want to stop for air. When you get washed up over here, climb up and get the shield. Then climb up against the right side wall. The water level will lower here at some point. Careful when jumping from section to section so you avoid spikes. Grab the ring boxes and push the switch here to open up the wall on the right side. Grab the invincibility here to make the travel through these spikes and other bullshit much faster. These guys with the swirling spikes will send one spike at a time towards you. Duck underneath them and he's all yours after that. Switch over to the other set of platforms under the spikes like so, and the finish line is just ahead. Just like in Act 2, Act 3 starts off with several water slides. It'll continue to loop until you hop off onto this gap here and hit the switch to open up the wall. You can also hop into this first section here to get a shield first. After opening up a couple of these doors, you have two options. The first one is a shortcut to Robotnik, which I recommend unless you have one life and no rings. Hop between these tridents, let the block fall, ride the waves through here, and release your grip from the poles once you're not level with the spikes. Take the spring up here to open the door and Robotnik is just ahead. But if you take the other route, watch out for the spikes that protrude from the floors. Stay at the base of these swinging spiked balls, and when you get to this pulley of platforms, let it take you to the edge and grab the invincibility. There are a lot of spikes down there. Slip in here to get a ring box, push the switch in the middle, then let the pulley carry you up by the left side wall and sneak up in here for a shitload of rings and an extra life. Be careful jumping here. You'll want to jump right as the ball is swinging away from you, so you have enough time to get to the center and time the next jump. Let the platform take you up here, hit the switch to change its direction, and ride it up here and you'll get washed to Robotnik. First things first, hop on the cork that'll float once the place starts flooding, or you'll be stranded at the bottom and drown. Then you'll move through several flights of stairs. At the third nook on the left, head over and grab the shield, and now the Robotnik battle officially begins. All he does is flood the place and run away, so you have to chase him and get to the top before you drown. You don't even take out his ship, you just need to get to the top and it's over. But of course there's a bunch of shit in the way, these fire-breathing statues and tridents from earlier in the zone. Getting the timing right to get past all this isn't the hard part. The hard part is doing it with a time limit since you're underwater. So you have to find a happy medium between rushing in and getting wiped out by the hazards and taking too long and drowning. Getting the shield and having some rings for protection should come in handy. Right at the beginning of the first act of Starlight Zone, you'll want to get a running start and roll through the wall here for some ring boxes and an invincibility. Spring back up and run right through the bombs, who detonate spraying debris around, so normally you'll want to jump over them and get away. But while you have the invincibility, just plow right through. Activating the staircase will close up an extra life that you'll want to get, but if you walk far enough away and run back up, it'll be back in its original spot and you can get it. Then after getting a good running start here, steer yourself left and you'll have just enough room to make it. Then kill this schmuck if you can. Getting between his spikes is possible but not easy, so you may want to just let him wander past you. Then smack these stairs to let him drop. Get a running start so you can get the angle right to spring yourself up here. There'll be flame shots coming from the left as these floating platforms rotate in circles. Don't be too afraid here, because even if you fall, you're not landing in a pit, although there are a lot of bombs down here. Just after crossing them, you'll make a mad dash for the exit. Act 2 starts off with some loop-de-loops. When you get here, stop and let the bombs commit suicide and jump up here, following the route. Continue to head right while activating these staircases, and you'll get to these seesaws with spiked balls on the other side. Jump on the safe end and switch off quickly as the ball will switch spots and spring you up. You want to get to the outer edge of the seesaw to get the most distance. When you get to the floating platforms, take the upper path to get some rings and then head back down and you're at the end. Act 3 starts out with a downhill run. Jump over the spiked prick, not letting yourself fall through that drop. Spring yourself this way and watch the fireball as you head across the seesaws, which you'll need to jump to the far side of to send the ball up. Grab the invincibility, run through the bombs, and spring yourself up from the seesaw to get up here. At the edge of this downward slope, jump to get up here, and a few loop-de-loops later, you'll reach this platform that'll take you up. Grab the shield in the corner, run under the swinging half-spiked ball that's actually walkable up top, and let the platform at the end take you up here. Take the seesaw across, and when you run down this hill, stop yourself so you don't spring back and activate the stairs. Get a running start and roll through this prick, run past the exploding debris from the bombs, and you reached Robotnik. He'll drop spiked balls that also explode down onto these seesaws. To defeat him, you'll want to either send the balls back up at him, or use the seesaws as a springboard to bounce off his ship directly. Either way is effective, just make sure that you don't stay directly underneath him for very long so you don't get smashed. If you use the springboard technique, watch where you land. If you use the slingshot technique, watch where the bomb lands, cause if you miss Robotnik with it, you'll end up hitting yourself instead. After taking him out and freeing the animals, there's only one zone left to go, Scrap Brain. Right off the bat, there are trapdoors, so don't get caught standing on them. You're better off jumping over them outright. Watch these flame blasts, walk by once they clear, and push this button to change the direction of the wheel in front of you, which will decide whether you spin out down this way or go straight. Turn it clockwise so you can go straight, and then hop on these platforms when they're not spinning. You'll have just enough time if you time your jumps correctly. Get the shield on the left before continuing on the upper path. Slip down to get some rings and hop onto these platforms once they appear, but they'll disappear. They're kinda like the Mega Man blocks, except that you can see them coming a little bit better. Right after that is another set of appearing platforms. They don't lead you to death if you fall, but you'd rather get across so you can get this ring box and a shield. Then drop back down off the left and ride these pulley platforms up here. You'll have to jump from one line to the other once you get to the end of each, and the bottom row will spin out and cause you to fall if you're standing on one of them. Then turn this wheel clockwise and go straight again. Head up these appearing platforms to get a shield and some ring boxes, hop across some more appearing platforms, and you'll get these beams that rotate. You'll want to get into the gap horizontal with the beam as quickly as possible and then run underneath once it raises. You don't want to get crushed from underneath. Right after that, you're home free to the finish. At the beginning of Act 2, there are these spinning wheels you'll have to ride on and leap off at the right time to get up here. Push the switch and head right. You'll teleport down here and hit a few conveyor belts with a giant saw blade hovering over it. Slow down if it's too low and then pass it once it raises up high enough. Watch the timing between the flames and the trapdoor. Jump across when the floor is up and the flame is out, but it doesn't last too long, so be careful. Then there'll be more conveyor belts with saw blades overhead. You'll be tempted to carefully cross over underneath them, but you're actually better off dropping down and springing yourself across to the other side. Then roll underneath this electricity and run past this pump when it raises. Hop down here to get the shield and push the switch to get this beam to pop out. Pass by once the flame is out of the way and head up this slope to get an invincibility. Then head down the slopes and the finish line is at the bottom. Just watch out for the swinging spike balls if your invincibility is out. But it doesn't totally end there. You'll approach Robotnik, who's protected by a laser wall. He'll push the switch, which takes the floor out from underneath you, sending you to Act 3. Which is another extension of Lambert Zone. That's right, the level designers love Lambert Zone so much that we needed a fourth act of it, and the awesome Scrap Brain Zone really only gets 2. What a jib. So hit the switch to send this platform down and bypass it so you can sneak down here for a quicker route to the end. Push the switch to open the floor up, be careful of the tridents, the swinging spiked ball, and the fire spit from the statues. Keep heading right, jump over this water pit, and slip down on this side. Head up the stairs, watch out for the swinging balls, and you'll spring your way up to the final zone, which is the same spot Robotnik was standing earlier. You'll do battle with him in this small room. First, you'll get 4 charges of electricity that hover overhead for a second and then slowly descend. Get between 2 of the ones that seem further apart and jump between them. Then get towards the center, as 2 of these 4 pods will extend, trying to crush you, with Robotnik in one of them. You want to smash him from the side, so getting in the center gives you the best chance to catch up to him no matter where he is. But be prepared to get the hell out of the way, because the 2 center pods might expand. It'll either be the 2 in the middle, the 2 outer edges, the 2 from up top, or the 2 from underneath. You'll never see the 2 left or the 2 right pop out at once. You don't have any rings for this battle, so you can't make any mistakes. When waiting for the pods, lean a bit more toward the left or right side so when the 2 center pods expand, you can walk off in that direction easier instead of getting caught. Even if Robotnik is farther away from you, it's worth it to wait for him on the next go around than to die. Once you finish him off, Robotnik will try to escape in his ship, and he'll succeed if you don't smash him one more time, sending him to the ground. Whether or not he escapes doesn't change anything, it's still the end of the game. But you can get one of 2 endings at this point. If you collected all 6 Chaos Emeralds, Sonic will toss the spinning emeralds into the air and bug out before leaping toward the screen. Otherwise, he'll just stand there tapping his foot. Then, after the credits roll, you'll either get a shot of Robotnik juggling the emeralds you didn't collect, or stomping on the end sign if you did collect them all. Having to go back and face the challenge of collecting all the emeralds on top of beating the game again provides a goal for playing through again if you didn't succeed the first time. and even if you did get the emeralds, there's probably a lot of areas you didn't get to explore. Add the high fun factor level to this equals a lot of replay value. So that's Sonic the Hedgehog, an addicting, ludicrous speed platformer that etched itself into the annals of time as a true classic. And that wraps up this edition of Aqualung's Game Reviews. See you next time.